afternoon, my beautiful babes and babes. I'm your resident active advocate, and just an FYI, it was a combination of laziness and the writing bug biting me again. Ow! And that you are getting an afternoon video rather than a morning one, but that's okay. That's okay, right? Right. Cool. Today, I would like to talk to you about the topic of self-infantilization, which, as the name implies, means a person with a disability or a person in a demographic that is often infantilized. So people with disabilities, younger children, obviously, the elderly, so on and so forth, because there probably are other examples of these demographics, but those sorts of quotation marks people infantilizing themselves, treating themselves and seeing themselves as children. So I believe that this dynamic can be somewhat fluid within a person's mind because it can and often does come from both sides of the coin that we've been discussing, both the loving side and the malicious side of infantilization. When you are a person with a disability, it can often be the case that you will be infantilized from both sides or by both sides. So it may be the case that your parents say, no, we don't want you to learn how to ride a bike because you may not be able to react in time. You may not be able to see the traffic or hear the traffic. There could be lots of dangers around you that you may not be able to perceive or, get out of the way of. Whereas on the malicious side of that, as I explained in my video on that, the whole idea is we have already put you in the box. You are not allowed to leave this box. So you are going to be left behind because society has deemed you unworthy of being brought along for the ride. When a person takes both of these messages into their head simultaneously, it can result in the infantilization of self. Coming from the loving side, they could see it as, yes, this really is a danger, and I should not attempt this because maybe mom or dad or just someone who cares about me, maybe they said no, and on the other hand, it could be a case of I have heard often enough that I'm bad at this, even without being given the opportunity to try. But I have been told often enough that I am bad at this that I don't want to try anymore because it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. If people are going to say to me anyway, no matter what you do, you will not be good enough at this or for this or in this, there's the whole dynamic of you've been raised this way, you've been spoken to this way, and your whole thought process, or at least in regards to certain activities, your whole thought process may be molded by people either protecting you or attempting to bring down your self-esteem. Neither dynamic is inevitably positive because the problem with the loving infantilization is that it also creates the box around you. And if you inculcate this into yourself, if you take this message into yourself from either side, but let's talk about the loving side first. If you take this message into yourself and it lasts to adulthood, there could be a lot that you could potentially be doing that you're not attempting to do because you've been told for your own safety, for your own good, quotation marks, often enough not to do this thing. It may not turn out. And the fear of failure often makes nothing happen at all. So the fear of failure can be a huge driving force, and that also ties into the malicious side. It's not so much a matter of saying you shouldn't try because it's unsafe or there might be a negative consequence. The whole idea in the malicious side is you are going to fail no matter how hard you try anyway. So automatically you are branded as a failure, which means that your self-esteem is lowered to the point where you don't want to try. It's not a matter of I want to keep myself safe. It's more a matter of I don't want to be seen as a fool, or, I don't want to try and fail. So both of these dynamics, as you see, create a very negative headspace for the person in question. And this mindset can carry on throughout a person's entire life. These can be the consequences of infantilization, that the person, let's say they have a visual impairment and they're afraid to use the stove, and their parents are afraid of them using the stove because what if they get burned? What if they cut themselves with a knife when they're trying to make a meal? That sort of thing. What if, what if, what if? On the loving side of things. And that can create enough fear in a person to make them not want to try. On the malicious side, the whole idea of, well, we can do it better and faster than you can, so fluff off into the corner, please, because we don't want your help, we don't need your help. And really, to us, you're just a little kid. No matter how old you get, you'll always just be a little kid, because we've already decided that you're useless, so we're not going to try and make you useful. These dynamics operate together to create a mess of a person a lot of the time. And as I say, this can last well into adulthood. This often does last well into adulthood. And if it keeps on going, the problem is you are putting many different demographics, not just one, into the box that they don't feel comfortable coming out of. There's a line in a story by Ursula Le Guin that I read very recently, just a few days ago. I discovered this story. It's called The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, or The Ones Who Walked Away, I believe. The Ones Who Walked Away from Omelas, and they're talking about someone who would feel wretched without walls around them. Now, Le Guin means that in a physical sense. Here, I'm going to use that as an analogy for the mental state that can be created through infantilization. If the person removes the barriers that have been put on them, or if society or even their parents say, you're getting too old for this, they may in fact feel wretched without walls around them. It depends on how deeply the message has been ingrained in their head by that point. And it can create a terrible fear of trying, because if you try and fail, there's no point in trying again, is there? But I have an analogy for you. Let's just take an ordinary skill that a baby learns, okay? This doesn't apply to wheelchair users, but I mean, you can give any analog you want. If as a baby you got up and you took your first steps, but you fell, and your parents scooped you up and held you, baby, and refused refused to let you try ever again, you would never have learned how to walk. Let's take another analogy. If you were a baby and trying to say the word mama, but you're like mum, or or something like that, or it quote comes out wrong, right? And someone laughed at you and you got the message that, oh, that was stupid, you might not ever try again. And that can extend into the adult life of people with disabilities. The whole idea of, I failed, I screwed up, so I can't try again for fear of making a fool of myself. Or in the case of even getting injured trying to do something, I got hurt, so I'm afraid to try again. At least the second one is understandable. I mean, they're both understandable. It depends on where you're coming from in terms of your mindset. But the whole problem with that mindset is that if you don't try, you don't even have the opportunity to fail. Failure is an opportunity, and I know how cliche that is. Wow. But failure is an opportunity to learn. There's no such thing as a mistake. There's just lessons and, all that stuff that they put on fortune cookies. But, I mean, those really do apply in real life. If you don't try, you don't even have the chance to fail, which means that you don't have the chance to succeed either. So, next week, I'm going to talk about. What am I going to talk about? Oh, yeah, I'm going to talk about solutions to these problems of infantilization, but I'm also going to talk about systemic infantilization and medical infantilization, and that one's going to get heavy. I will be putting trigger warnings in probably both of those videos, but we'll see. It might just be the medical one. But since I take weekends off, we are going to be waiting on that until Monday because it's Friday and it snowed overnight and it's gross out and I can barely open my front door because it's all icy. So, fun. Wherever you are, stay happy, lovely, and warm. And I will see y'all on Monday. Like, comment, share, subscribe, please, because this information is very important and I want to get it out there because we can't change this dynamic without doing it together. Has to be bottom up, can't be top down. Thank you very much. I'll see y'all on Monday. Bye!